And he erected there an altar and called it Eliohi, Eliohi Israel. You know what it means? Does anybody know what it means? It means the mighty God of Israel. The mighty God of Israel is what Jacob called either the altar or the place in which the altar was, however you want to understand it. But it's called El 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 Elohi Israel, the mighty God of Israel. Now, there's another place that an altar was made and named. And in Exodus chapter 17, I'm building up to my climax, so give me time. In chapters 7, Exodus 17:15, and Moses built an altar and called the name of it Jehovah Nissi, which means God is my banner. Jehovah is my banner. Now, friend, let me tell you something. When you hear these religious stiffnecks walking around claiming they ought to throw the altars out of the church, remember that Solomon was one of the wisest of all wise men. And you just seen it was demonstrated in 1 Kings 8:54 that Solomon himself, as powerful as he was yet humble enough to bow down on his knees on an old-time altar, making a point of contact with God. Why? Because he knew that that altar was a place where Moses called Elohi, the mighty God of Israel. You want to get a hold of the mighty God of Israel? Then think about that old altar that Moses made, called the Elohi of Israel, the mighty one true God of Israel. You want to get victory, have victory in God? Then remember Jacob when he named the altar Jehovah Nissi. Jehovah is my banner. When you go to the altar, think about it. When you go to that altar, have it in your mind, I'm going to a place of contact, a place called El Elohim. I'm going to the mighty God of Israel. And you, like Solomon, when you get up off your bended knees with your hands stretched forward, you can say that you're arising from a place called Jehovah Nissi. Jehovah is my banner. I have the victory. It's like the races, the NASCAR races. They get the flag and they make their victory lap. They're won. They're overcomers. They went down with a burden. They came up Jehovah Nissi. They went down to the Elohi Israel. They went down to meet a point of contact of the mighty God of Israel, and they come up with Jehovah Nissi. God is my banner, my victory. You see what it is? All through the Bible, from Genesis clear over into Revelation, where he says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sin, and that ye receive not her plagues. Not only are they trying to throw the altar out of the church, but they're trying to throw the church out as well, proclaiming that you're supposed to come out of the church where that old altar is. Friend, to come out of her is not talking about the church. It's talking about two things. A, either Babylon, or B, the world itself. You don't come out of the old church, and you certainly don't come out of the old altar, but you put the altar in the church. And the altar is just as good for the saint as it is for the sinner. Y'all know it's been time in this room that we spoke about this altar. And we've been talking about not to witness, but to be a witness. Now, can anybody tell me a better way to demonstrate the first action to be a witness than somebody coming out of her, coming out of that world, as in Revelations 18? Come out of her, my people, come out of the world. When that old-fashioned altar call is given, and people's going to come to that place called Jehovah Elohi, my God of Israel, when somebody comes up there, what better way to start your walk with God to be a witness than to let the people around you know that you're coming out of this old world sin, that you're coming now to a place called Jehovah Nissi. When you get up off your bended knees with your hands waved in heaven, saying, God is my banner, I now have the victory over a thing called sin. You know, the serpent in the wilderness, God told Moses, if you'll take some brass and make me a serpent, whoever gets bitten by that snake, if they'll just look upon that brass, they'll be healed. And let's take the biting of the serpent representing just sin itself. Now, God could have just said, Moses, you don't have to build me a serpent. You don't have to build it of brass. And you don't have to put it up on a pole. People that don't have to look at it, I can heal them without all that. But the point of it is, God told him to do that. He used a serpent on a pole made of brass, that if people would just come to that serpent and look upon it, they'll be healed. Today we don't use a serpent, brass serpent, but some churches, or at least the ones that are of God, have an old-time altar in them, to where you can go to that point and place to call upon the one God of Israel. And when you've called upon that God, and you've demonstrated to the people that you're now coming out of this world system into a new walk with Christ, when you get up off your bended knees with your hands stretched forth, then you can say, Jehovah Nissi, I have met you. And I want to thank you, Jehovah Nissi,